Hello and welcome back to the One of the Family podcast by Blue Circle Cement. I'm your host, Aisling. On today's episode, I'm joined by Rob Woodhouse from Solent Garden Services. Rob shares his experience of managing his team, advice for hiring and taking on apprentices, and what it's really like to gradually step away from the tools and spend more time managing a business. Hi Rob, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How's your week going so far?
It's been busy, a little bit stressful, doing some resin work, and a cat has decided to walk over some of the resin, so that's got to be redone. But other than that, it's not too bad.
Oh, that must be really annoying. Does that happen often or anything? Yeah.
No. It doesn't happen very often. Thankfully. The cat must have literally waited for us to turn our back, and it was straight on there. So, yeah, it's got to be redone, that bit.
Yeah. Oh well, that's unavoidable, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. So can you tell us a wee bit about Solent Garden Services and what work you guys do, and how did the company start?
Yeah, sure. So we're a family business. We started in 1973, obviously before I was born.
You're looking good.
I don't feel good. 1973. Started by my dad, and predominantly gardening work, trees, garden maintenance with some landscaping. Obviously, I grew up kind of around the business. It was always kind of going school holidays when I was kind of 15, work experience, etc. And then my dad had some other businesses as well. So it was kind of scaled down a little bit. And when I came on kind of 15, 16 years ago, it was myself and one other guy kind of part-time. So mostly doing garden maintenance at the time, trees, hedges, grass cutting, a little fencing, and a little bit of landscaping. Mm-hmm. And then it's kind of gone from there.
Yeah. So you had one guy part time with you. Then when did you start to decide to start hiring more people?
Yeah, it was probably about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more, and it was just kind of a natural progression as we were advertising more, looking for more work, kind of variations in work. The natural step was then to take one more person on to work with me full time, and then it kind of went from one person to two people, and it's just kind of gone like a natural progression rather than kind of going with the work that's coming in. It's kind of been the way we've done it. I think there's probably a couple of ways you could do it. You could probably take on a bigger team and then find the work for them, or kind of the way I've done it is that as the work's come in, as it's built and built and built, then we find the people then to come and work with us as we're getting more stretched, as it's harder to kind of get the jobs done on time. So probably pros and cons both ways, because obviously if you've got a big team and then you're looking for the work, there's obviously stress then, can I find the work for them? Whereas on the other side, if you're finding the work and then trying to get more guys, the pressure then is getting the jobs done with the guys you've got. Are you stretching yourself too thin? Are you getting the jobs done properly? So kind of pros and cons, but the way we've done it is to kind of naturally evolve as the work comes in, as we grow, take on more people as we go.
Yeah, it's more like a gradual progression rather than the stress of having to find the work for people. How did you start going about hiring good people?
To be honest, the first couple of people were kind of more like word of mouth, kind of local. We're a small business, so we kind of like to employ local people. So everyone's kind of in the local area, and it's kind of word of mouth. But a lot of the times we kind of social media, Facebook. They're really good tools for, and it's free to put the word out that you're looking to hire. And obviously there's going to be local people as well then, if they're kind of seeing it on your social media. Obviously the downside of that is probably you maybe have to sift through more people that maybe aren't qualified for the job or maybe wouldn't be right for the job. But again, it's a good way to use social media to kind of let people know that you're hiring. That's kind of the way I've done it a lot of the time.
Yeah. Was it kind of people you may have known or you knew them through friends or family?
The first person I took on, I went to school with his sister. Mm-hmm. So the kind of word got about that we were kind of looking to hire and he was looking for work. And then from then it's just more been like social media and just putting it out there and kind of people will see it and then kind of share it. If you can get something out there and it gets shared, it's amazing how quickly, people can see it.
Yeah. What do you look for whenever you're hiring people? Like qualities, or is it qualifications?
To be honest with you, it's more the person. They've got to have something about them. They've got to be. You've got to have a good can-do attitude. Depends what side of the business, because my business is divided up in as much as we've got kind of gardening, horticulture, garden maintenance, and then we've got landscaping. So a lot of the times we've taken people on the gardening side. So you've got on that side, which maybe you don't necessarily need that many qualifications for, but we've got people with qualifications in horticulture to do that. We'll kind of teach you the ropes, and then a lot of people have worked up from that and have then gone into the landscaping side with us. So they've got a good kind of gardening foundation, and then obviously they've gone into the landscaping, so they can kind of mix both. That's kind of the way. That's the route I went. So it's kind of naturally the way we do it with our team.
Yeah, and it's the route probably you understand the best, sort of.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do you go about getting apprentices? Do you contact the colleges, is it? Or do the colleges contact you, or the apprentices contact you?
We have a local college in Winchester near to us that she'll put an advert out. She'll contact me and say, well, I'm recruiting mostly on the horticultural side. We're recruiting for people to do apprenticeships. Do you want us to put an advert out for you? So we'll put the advert out, and then the applications will go to her. She'll then sift through them and interview them. Mm-hmm. Then she says to me, like, I've got a lad who would be ideal. He'll then come down. I'll meet him, and we go from there. I've had occasionally people have come to me direct, but usually what I say is, here's the college details. Go to them.
Yeah. Because
then you know if they're serious, then they'll contact the college, because they've got to go through the college anyway. So that's what we've done. I say we've had two good apprentices in like the last 4 or 5 years. One of them is still with me and is kind of working his way up. Another one of the lads has left, but they're still, although they've left, they're still working in the industry. So from my point of view, that's kind of like, okay, it would have been nice if they stayed with us, but at least they're still doing what we've kind of trained them in doing,
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say the difference is between hiring an apprentice or hiring someone that has previous experience?
I think the good thing with an apprentice is they're a blank canvas. So you can mould them to because every business does things differently. And probably especially when you're a family business, there's different dynamics kind of involved with that as well. Probably more friction more times than when it's a family business, people banging heads. But generally speaking, every business does things differently. So if you've got someone who comes in as a clean slate, you can mould them to how you want them to work. Obviously, the downside of that is you do need to have patience with them. You can't get them to run before they can walk. And then there's a fine line between giving them a bit of responsibility on the job and then just have them doing the cleaning up, and they've got to be learning, but at the same time, you've got to give them the practical experience. And then that's a kind of a fine line. I think I've learned that over the years with previous apprentices, how much responsibility to give them. If you don't give them enough, then they can get bored, or, they feel that they're just there to just clean up for you and things like that. So there's a balance there. But obviously then if you get someone with a bit more experience, have they kind of got baggage and maybe their own way of doing things that maybe doesn't fit the way you're doing, you want things done. So it's kind of like a fine line. We're quite a young team, which has kind of been my choice. I wanted a younger team with me, and they've kind of worked their way up as I've built the business, and I'm still learning. I'm still learning about landscaping and techniques and materials. They're kind of going along with me, which was kind of a conscious decision that I've made. Sometimes it can be difficult when you've got older people working with you. It can be quite difficult. The dynamics change a little bit. I find it a little bit trickier to take direction from maybe someone who's younger or someone who doesn't necessarily have as much experience as them. So yeah, that's the way. Every business is different. That's been my kind of way of going about things.
Yeah, I suppose it probably just depends on what you want and what type of business you're kind of running.
Yeah, it's patient. I would say the word is probably patience. If you've got patience to mold the people and to kind of work on them and improve their skill set as they go, then it's great. If you want instant results, if you want them to be able to fly straight in to do porcelain paving or lay natural stone, are they going to be experienced enough? You might have to pay more money to have someone who's a bit more experienced. You can just go in there straight away and do that. So it's a balance, really.
Yeah, have you kind of stepped away from the tools maybe a wee bit more now that you've got more people on? Are you more in the office and like the management kind of side of things?
So probably a couple of years ago, I had two more people a couple of years ago, probably just over 2 years. And from like ego and vanity, it's great. I've got a team of like 7 guys and I'm doing really well. And, I'm taking a step back and I'm just going to manage them. And probably then when you kind of take a step kind of back and you look and you think, actually, is it productive? Are you actually making any money? Are you ready to take that step back? And are you organised enough to be like managing like the jobs rather than to be on the tools? Are the people you've got working for you, but they've got the skill set to be able to do the jobs to the standard that you want? And actually, we had a couple of guys left around about the same time by their own choice. And then it gave me an opportunity to kind of look and think, actually, do we need to go out and replace them straight away? No. I'll go back out on the tools a little bit more, be a bit more hands-on again, and actually maybe ask a little bit more from the people that we've got to maybe step up a little bit. So we kind of used it in the last 18 months, 2 years to kind of have a bit of a shake-up, which has been really, really, we've gone from there to there. So now we've got a chance now we're starting to take it. I took one other guy on again this year. So I'm just slowly kind of building back up. And I think I'm in a better place now as well to be doing normal, like the logistics of managing the sites, managing the jobs, making sure the guys have got the materials they need, making sure the jobs are being done to the right standard, chipping in and doing a bit when I'm needed. It's those jobs. It's knowing where they need to be left, and when actually you need to maybe spend a day with them, checking in on the jobs, talking to the customers. So yeah, it's kind of like it's a balance. But I'm just now starting to take more of a step back. Again, as the lads have become maybe more skilled in the job, I can take a step back. But then it's just a case of like, I guess like quality control on the jobs. Are they doing the jobs to a good enough standard? So that's kind of where I am at the moment. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping I can almost come away from the tools completely. Although when I'm in the office, I want to be out on the tools, and when I'm out on the tools, I want to be on the office, especially when it's raining. Yeah. Everyone's like, funny that. When you've got a stack of paperwork to do when it's raining, funny that.
I'll have to go to the office today.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so obviously you maybe spend more time in the office now and on the more like management and like running of the business now. How do you get to the point where you trust your team to go out and do the job for you and make sure that they do it to the quality and the standard that you want?
So that's always going to be an issue. I mean, it's human nature. I don't think anyone's, as much as you can mould them and manage them, I think there's always going to be human nature where they're just not you, and they won't necessarily do what you would do in that situation. Being on the tools with them enough over the last few years, I'd like to think that they take a step back and say, what would Rob do? Mm-hmm. Is that, I try and be there like in the mornings to run through any problems, or I'm bringing materials to the job, so I'm backwards and forwards to the site, so I'm there enough. And then at the end, sometimes it's at the end when you're there and you think, that bit there, that finishing touch, that the customer's going to pick up on that. And it's kind of sometimes how you kind of approach the lads about it. Like, do you steam in and say, look at the way you've done that? Or you kind of say like, look at this bit, like, I don't think they're going to be happy with that. I usually say something like, I don't think you're going to be very happy with that. Or, you can do better than that. That's usually the kind of way I kind of go with it. You can do better than that. And sometimes it's little things that when you're busy and they're obviously on the tools, sometimes you just you just don't notice them sometimes. I think sometimes you need that fresh set of eyes to say, oh, that bit needs tweaking a little bit there, because you know that the client's going to pick up on it anyway. So if the client's going to pick up on it, you might as well do it before they pick up on it, because you're only going to have to redo it.
Yeah, I think the key thing there was probably the way you deliver like your feedback to the team. It has to be done in the right way, so it's kind of like more so motivating rather than like harsh, telling someone they've done a bad job or could be better.
I mean, the way I look at it is like there's an old school way of doing things where you shout at everyone and try and get results, but it just doesn't work with people anymore. You're not you don't want to tread on eggshells around people, but at the same time, it's how you talk to them, it's how you manage them. I like to say to people, oh, you work with me. And I very rarely say to people, oh, they work for me. I learned that like really from day one. When you're working with one person part-time, they don't want to feel like they're working for you. I always say to people that they're working with me. So it's kind of that thing of, not tread on eggshells, but getting your point across without having to lose your rag.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I very rarely shout and scream and kick things. But when I do, the guys know that like there's a major problem. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't, an 18, 19-year-old lad now, you can't shout and scream at him. It just won't work. You won't get results out of him. You have to. It's about finding things that. Finding things that everyone's different. All five of them are different. It's what motivates them. Some people, it might be they're motivated by money, which is fine. So they've had a good week or a good month. Maybe you drop them a little bit of extra money. Some people are more motivated by like a well done. You find a lot of the younger lads are more motivated by a pat on the back, like a well done, or like put their work on Instagram or social media, tag them in it. Great job. They're happy with that. So it's about finding what makes people tick and kind of using that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Most people will respond better to praise than they will to criticism. Absolutely. If you're criticising them all the time, you're not going to get much out of them. And that's what I say to lads. Like I praise people, but at the same time, if there's an issue from the client or if there's an issue with a job, then and if it's justified, then I take it to them. I say this is not good enough. And you can't have it both ways. If you want the praise, you've got to be able to take the criticism as well when it hasn't gone to plan. Or if you don't want that criticism, then I won't praise you. We'll just keep it as kind of, we don't say anything, we just get our jobs done. But I think most people always respond better to a bit of praise.
Yeah.
Like a well done. To me, the best two words in a dictionary are well done. If you tell people well done when they've done well, it goes a long way, I think. Yeah,
absolutely. How do you find training courses? Or like what training courses do you get your team to do?
Evening courses are good, but at the same time, you're asking those people to make that commitment every week for 6 months or what it is to take the time out to do that. A lot of like the training academies and stuff now do like 1 day city and guild courses, which are more 1 or 2 day, which is a bit more intense. I prefer that because it's intense. They still come away with a city and guild qualification at the end of it. It might just mean that they need more time actually on the jobs, honing the skills. Whereas if you're doing an evening course for 6 months, you're kind of honing the skills each week as you go along. So personally, I prefer like the city and guild 1 or 2 day courses. But it swings and roundabouts. There's some courses that you can't do in 2 days. That's the way we go anyway. Obviously, apprentices, they're at college 1 day a week, and then they're with us 4 days a week. So yes, it's kind of swings and roundabouts.
Yeah. What would you say is it very stressful, like managing a team and running a business, and like how do you deal with that stress?
It can be. Don't get me wrong. There are times when everything goes to plan and it goes smooth, and you've had that kind of period of time where no one's been off sick, no one's taken any holiday, no one's been late, and it's like, and every job, when the job goes really well and you see the team working as a team, sort of like one team's finished one job early and they're going to give the other team a hand to finish their job. That's when you like that. Yeah, this is how it should be. This is working great. Then obviously when you've got issues with lateness or sickness or you're juggling people to get here, there and everywhere, it's stressful. But I think it's really it's rewarding when you see guys complete a job that you probably knew 3 or 4 years ago they wouldn't have been able to do, and now they're capable of doing it, and they do it to a good standard. That's when it's really, 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 really satisfying. But yeah, it can be stressful. I say, especially if you, like I say, I take the thing of like an open door policy. So if they've got issues in or outside of work, come to me and we'll help if we can. That can obviously lead to more stress because you're kind of taking on board other people's problems a little bit. But I think the rewards are that the people will appreciate that. And when push comes to shove, if they were thinking of leaving, maybe there's that thing of, well, he really has looked after me. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the flip side of that is when they do leave, you kind of maybe take it a bit more personally, like, oh, I've done all this for you and now you're leaving me. And do you know what I mean? But it's kind of swings and roundabouts, really. I think, it's just in terms of dealing with the stress, that's a difficult one, because when it's your own business, you do take everything personally and you do have sleepless nights. But that's all part of being your own boss and running your own business.
Yeah. And do you ever stress about obviously having more people on your payroll? Do you ever stress about cash flow and stuff like that there, getting to payday for your team?
Absolutely, especially as you start taking on bigger jobs, jobs that are worth maybe a little bit more money. Obviously then there's a delay on getting paid, or if there's an issue with the job and you're not paid on time, those guys are still going to want their wages. I can't say to the guys, yeah, sorry lads, I can't pay you. I'm going to pay you late because I haven't been paid yet. At the end of the day, the buck stops with me. If there's a cash flow problem, the person who doesn't take their wages at the end of the month, or all their wages at the end of the month, is me. Mm. But then again, that's part of being the boss. But yeah, VAT bills to pay, corporation tax to pay, pension contributions, they're all, it's all got to be paid at the end of the day. And let's say if there is a cash flow problem, I can't say to the guys, oh, there's a cash flow problem. You can't, at the end of the day, they need to get paid. And then you kind of, as the boss, you're the one who has to kind of suck it up and maybe not get paid or get paid a little bit later at the end of the month.
Yeah. Is it stressful doing the books and stuff like that, and the
So I've got Marion who works with me who helps me with the office. We're not big enough. We're not producing enough invoices. We're not big enough to have somebody in the office full time dealing with that. So 1 or 2 days a week. A lot of it she can do from home as well, which is ideal. So Marion will do the payroll, the VAT returns, basically the stuff that if you're late doing it or you get it wrong, you've got massive problems. So she deals with that side of things, and obviously then the accountant does the books. Whereas I deal with, basically my role is I look at the jobs, I quote the jobs, I organise the materials, get into the jobs, I oversee the job, making sure it's done properly, or do the job. I work with the guys, and then I invoice the job at the end of it. That's kind of my role in the office.
Yeah, it's probably having the right people on board to be able to help you with stuff maybe you don't want to do, or you don't have the experience or knowledge to do.
It's a simple thing. Sometimes chasing an outstanding invoice, sometimes it comes across a lot better if it's somebody else who works for you chasing that. Because especially if you're going to keep working for them, or if it's an ongoing thing, if you're the person dealing with them on site, and then you're the person chasing them for money, sometimes it can cause you more problems. If you've got somebody who says, oh, hi, I'm Marion, I'm calling from Solent Garden Services, we're just chasing up that invoice. Mm. When they come to me, I can always say to them, oh, sorry about her, she's a bit
you can
a bit of a Rottweiler when it comes to chasing money. Whereas then I'm in the office saying to Marion, you need to call them and chase up that invoice. Do you know what I mean? It's little things like that can make your life a little bit easier. Mm. And I'm not an expert in everything. I don't know about VAT returns. Mm. I know the basics. You've got to pay it. I don't know about VAT returns. I don't know how to make the payroll work. I don't know how. I know that the lads' money goes into their bank account at the end of the month, but I don't know I don't know how that is generated. I don't know how you calculate the holiday. I don't know about the pension contributions, the sick pay. There's only so much one person can do.
Definitely.
And you need people around you. You need people around you who know how to do it. It's, it is a difficult one because you don't want to be. It's not easy when it's your own business. You pass everything. It's not ideal to pass everything over to somebody else without knowledge. And again, that's something that as I spend more time in the office, I'll probably will get more of a grasp on the VAT return, the payroll, how it works. So that I've got my finger on the pulse a little bit more on that side of the business, because at the moment that gets dealt with by somebody for me. But again, that's the whole thing of like evolving and developing the business.
I think definitely as a boss, you can't be doing everything and having to know about everything. So yeah, definitely passing roles on to other people or hiring the correct people definitely probably takes away some of that the stress of it.
Also, someone said to me once, I can't remember who said it. They said to me, like, don't be afraid of employing people who know more than you do.
Yeah,
that's the other thing. Like, there's a thing of you're the boss or it's your business. You're the main man. You should know it all. You'll tell them how to do the job. There's nothing wrong with employing people who know more about something than you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So the last year has been a bit of unusual one. How has COVID impacted your company and your employees?
Yes, obviously it's been a crazy year. And again, the first lockdown, I made the decision I phoned the guys after the first announcement. I said to the guys, don't come into work tomorrow, which was like, I agonised over it. I never thought I'd phone up my guys and tell them not to come to work. But at the time, it was kind of like, there's this virus that you've got to be 2 meters apart. And I'm thinking, the guys can't work 2 meters apart, or you put a drill down, or you put a shovel down, or someone's mixing the concrete, and then they're wheeling the wheelbarrow to someone who's then picking up the wheelbarrow and taking it on somewhere else. So the first 7 weeks lockdown, we did lockdown, we shut down, left the job half finished, but obviously the clients were fine. They knew why we were doing it. They understood why we were doing it. They agreed with why we were doing it. And I would say that all the work that I had booked in, all bar one, I probably had about 8 projects, all except one was fine with us not coming in. I had one person who said, "Oh well, you work outdoors, you can carry on." And then after that, obviously that first 7 weeks, when people say, "Okay, you can work outdoors with precautions," so we were kind of building for that, and we were kind of looking at how can we take the precautions at work. So while we're at that 7 weeks off, the first thing is I'm planning for the guys to come back. So 2 guys in a van. If you're in a pickup truck, 1 person in the front, 1 person in the back. Wear your masks when you're in the van, gloves. When you're on the job, obviously try and limit the amount of time. Say to someone, like, that's my shovel. Literally, that's my shovel. Don't touch my shovel. That's my drill. Don't touch my drill. Like, do you know what I mean? It's silly things like that. Or when you're in the yard loading up, wear your masks. Obviously, it's a difficult one to police or implement all the time with the guys, because you can't be on their back all the time. People need to take some responsibility. And that's one thing I said to the guys. I can control what you do at work to a certain extent. I can't control what you do outside of work. If you're going to flout the rules outside of work and you're going to socialise with lots of people and you're going to put yourself at risk, you're risking it coming into the business. If it comes into the business, we're all out of work again. So it's about the people taking some responsibility for what they're doing. And obviously, then we're kind of getting back into working again, and we're looking at, can the guys work? Yeah, okay, the guys can work. The suppliers are starting to open up a little bit more, making life a little bit easier. Obviously, there's kind of the thing of, you're having to make appointments to go into a builder's merchant, which when you've run out of cement, you need 1 more bag to finish a job, and you've got to queue up outside the builder's merchant. It can be a bit frustrating, but at the same time, the suppliers, a fair play to the suppliers. They must have been like really stressed with appointments, people coming in to collect stuff. So, it's just a case of everyone doing their bit to try and keep everyone working. And, from my point of view, it was that 7 weeks gave me a chance to sit back and do an overview of the business and look at the business from kind of like in the office, look at every part of the business. I mean, the first thing we did was kind of lock all the vans away, cancel the insurance on the vans. Like that saves us sort of £600-800 a month. Things like that. Every little penny that we could save, we did. And then we're looking at actually the jobs that we're doing. Are they productive enough? Are there parts of the business that aren't efficient? And it gave us a chance to kind of sit down and actually make some changes that have actually really, really benefited the business. And they're things I would probably never have done without the COVID situation. I maybe wouldn't have had time to sit down and look at it. And maybe I wouldn't have, like, especially some kind of, we're on the garden maintenance side, we do quite a lot of regular clients. And it's looking at those and actually, are you making money out of those? Is it a case of saying to them, look, I'm sorry, we're not going to come anymore. We can't come anymore because we're doing other work. So he gave me an opportunity to make some changes, and the guys had a chance to maybe step out of their comfort zone and do some jobs that maybe they wouldn't have done. And actually, they've done really, really well. And they've got kind of actually a new role at work, if that makes sense. So it was tough, but at the same time, I think we've used it as a positive. We've tried to put a positive slant on it as much as we can and kind of make some positive changes to the business.
Definitely. It sounds like you took some like positives away from it, and maybe it was time to kind of slow down and like step back and look at everything. How is it going forward? Because obviously there's the second lockdown and like there's the tiered system now. Is it still putting like a lot of stress on the business?
We're quite lucky in Southampton in terms of the tier. We're like a tier 2. So again, the builders merchants are still open. Supplies, we can still get the supplies. So from that point of view, it's not really that much of a problem. Again, it's just a case of reminding people at work, like, got to take this serious. I think that's the thing, keeping people, you've got to take it seriously. You've got to, be aware. From my point of view, in terms of managing a team, probably the pubs being shut and the restaurants being shut it makes my life easier at work. Because literally people have got, you get up, you go to work, you go home, repeat. There's nothing else you can do. All the time you can go and do other things, there's more of a chance you can bring it into work. But then on the downside of that is that like the monotonous thing of literally all you're doing is working. So yeah, from that point of view, as much as I do like the pub myself, it made my life a little bit easier. It did make my life a little bit easier at work. But going forwards, we don't know. It's difficult to plan too much, but the kind of the bigger picture is that we are going to look to maybe take on maybe a couple more people to then have kind of maybe 2 or 3 teams of 2 out running on projects, which I can go in between, and that would pretty much take me off the tools pretty much full time then to be actually logistically running different sites. That's kind of like long term down the line, hopefully next year. I mean, this year, we did a business plan. I did a business plan for this year, and it kind of goes out the window straight away because you've gone from kind of what you plan to do to actually going into survival mode. And your first thing is you need your business to survive. You get through that, and then now we've gone through the survival, and now we're hopefully looking at building and going forwards.
That's great. It sounds like, you have clear plan and like objectives that you want to like kind of hit going forward. I think this is really helpful to like learning a wee bit more about like how to manage a team, the stress and like probably the advantages of running a business and expanding it and kind of doing it at the right time. So yeah, thank you, Rob.
No problem. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
It's brilliant. And where can people find you on Instagram, and have you got a Facebook page or a website?
Yeah, so our business is Solent Garden Services. So you can find us online at www.solentgardenservices.co.uk. Also Solent Garden Services Limited on Facebook. And my Instagram is more of a kind of a diary of a landscaper. So it's the what would you call it? Like the handle is it the handle the right word?
Yeah, handle's the right word.
Is green_fingers with a Z _. That's us on Instagram.
Brilliant. Thank you for your time today, Rob.
Cool.
It's brilliant.
Thank you.
Cheers.